Good afternoon. So we are now on Sutra number 25, right? The Sutra goes this way. Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagna Bijam. He's removed a part from here. Oh my. Readings for this sutra. I had put the two readings here, but somebody has removed the other reading. There are two readings for this sutra. One is Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagnatva Bijam, and the other one is Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagna Bijam. There is no Tva over there. Tva, of course, means ness, a quality. I'm going to take that reading. Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagna Bijam. I put it here. Phone Keta, why did he cancel it? I don't know. So we are going to take that reading. I'll try to put it up just now.
Sir, Ketav is here. He will do something. He's here in the meeting. Ketav is here in the meeting.
Yeah.
So he will do something. We can start. In the meantime, he will put up something.
Rajan bhai, can you hear me? Yes. So nothing's been. It's not cancelled. It's there only.
Not there in this.
Point number 1. I'll put it up 1 second.
No. I had put this thing with another translation. Two sutras with
1
two.
second, 1 second.
This one. See here. This.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah.
This Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagna Bijam. I had put both these over here. I don't know how one. Yeah. No, take a print. Don't take a printout. Just put it on the screen.
There on the screen already. It is there on the screen.
Okay,
You have put it on the screen. Okay.
So we can see it. Maybe Ketav,
Yes.
can you increase the size so that everyone can see it? Yes.
This Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagna Bijam. I put both these over. I don't know how one. Yeah. Why is it repeating? Don't take a printout. Just put it on. Why is it repeating? No, it's okay. So these are two readings for. Actually, there's even a third reading for this sutra. I have not taken that. But these are the two main readings for this sutra. Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagnatva Bijam, and the one which Tavariaji Sahib has taken, which we are going to take, is Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagna Bijam. And Tavariaji Sahib has translated it in this way. In Ishvara, the Gurudeva, the germ of all knowledge expands into infinity. Okay. And the Sarvagnatva Bijam means it won't be the incomparable seed of knowledge. It will be the quality of the incomparable seed of knowledge, with the translation taken here, right? Okay, now we are moving in a certain sequence since the last 3 sessions. In what you call Sutra 23, he said Ishvara Pranidhanatva, which we will just now take as surrender to Ishvara. Then in Sutra 24, the last one which we took a few days ago, he says, he defines what is Ishvara. So here we have to realize that in 23 he says surrender to Ishvara, And in 24, he says that this is the definition of Ishvara, the one who is free of the 5 kleshas, karma, vipak, and ashay. Right? So we cannot surrender to any Ishvara, to any figment of our imagination or to any diagram or drawing. He has given a definitive, what do you call, definition of what he means by Ishvara, and we saw that. So when we go into the last sutra, that is that the Ishvara is the one who is free from these 8 imperfections. It is the observation of these 8 imperfections in our life, and by the observation we separate from them and try to be free from them. Now this is Sutra 25. He's still continuing the series on Ishvara, the Purush Vishesha Ishvara. And here he says Tatra. Tatra means there, or in that place, or therein. Niratishayam sarvagnatva bijam. There lies the seed, bijam, the seed. I'm just taking a very simple translation now, then we'll go deeper into the words. There lies the seed. So the seed is bijam, and niratishayam is the adjective of bijam. What kind of bij? Sarvagna bijam. What bij? But niratishayam, the adjective of that. Right? So he says, there is the seed of all knowing, or the seed of all knowledge, right? Which lies in that Ishvara. Once that soul is free from the 8 imperfections, in that soul, he becomes Purush Vishesh Ishvara. In that Ishvara lies the seed of all knowing or all knowledge. So if we were to say all knowing, it would mean omniscience. And if we were to say all knowledge, it would be it would mean omniscient. Omniscient, right? Now, what kind of seed of all knowledge? Nir atishayam. Nir means outside. Ati means extreme or excellent. Shayam, sleeping there. There, sleeping lies the seed of unexcelled excellence. And it is so excellent that nothing beyond it is possible. Nir, nothing beyond it is possible. It is so high. So he's saying that seed of all knowing, of all knowledge, which is lying there in that Ishvara, Tatra, it is so high that it is out of Atishayam also, Nir Atishayam. Now, he cannot be talking about the ultimate state over here, because he's still saying that there is a seed of knowing lying over here, right? And as long as some seed is there, it is not the ultimate state, but still we are very close to that state. Now, when we use the word seed, bijam, seed can mean 2 things. It can mean the beginning of everything, and it can also mean the ending of everything, where everything culminates into the seed, from seed to seed, the cycle of life, right? So seed could mean 2 things, the beginning, and it could also mean the end. So if we take the beginning, it means all potentialities, all possibilities. And if we take the end, it means all actualities, all that has been reached. Now, when we study geometry, we say that the dimensionless point is, the point is a dimensionless point. It's something with no dimensions. But when the point moves, it becomes a line. But in the line, the point is there. The line moves, it becomes a plane. But in the plane, the point is there. And the plane moves, it becomes a cube. But in the cube, the point is there. Similarly, the seed grows into a sapling, it grows into a tree, it grows into another seed. But in every stage, the seed is still over there, right? The point is still over there. Now, initially, we'll look at this in two ways. One is the power of knowing. That is the power of comprehending something and the power of understanding something. Now, if we study people, we will see everyone has a different power of comprehension and different power of understanding. I remember many years ago, we were reading a book. I'm talking about 1987. And we were reading in a group. And to understand a page, say it would take me 2-3 readings of that page to understand that page. But there was always one person in the group who would understand the page immediately and explain to the others what is being said in the. So his power of comprehension, his power of apprehension, his power of understanding was deeper, had more potency than, say, the rest of us, right? So initially we will look at this sutra as the power of knowing, the power of knowing. Now, he says that this Purush Vishesha Ishvara is the one who is unsmeared by, not touched by, not exactly not touched, but not made dirty by these 8 imperfections. Which are the 8 imperfections? The 5 kleshas, karma, vipak, and ashay. So definitely here he's talking about a certain journey from that soul which is bound in the 8 imperfections to that soul which frees itself from the 8 imperfections. So this is the whole journey of our sadhana. We are bound in these 8 imperfections, and as we move ahead, we rise above these 8 imperfections. So he's definitely talking about a journey. Now, this journey started with a seed, and that seed is in every human. And that seed is the seed of knowing, the one who wants to know, the person who wants to know from inside. He knows that something in me is not free, something in me is trapped in this maya of life, trapped in the entanglement of life. This inner knowing, right? It is a kind of understanding that I may have a good job, everything is good in life, right? But still, this is not everything in life. There is something beyond, right? Which I must make an effort to experience. So, this is the beginning of that knowing. This is the beginning of that understanding. Gurdjieff calls this the seed of understanding. And Gurdjieff goes on to say that understanding is the strongest force we can create within ourselves. As long as we understand, we will do, right? If I want to do certain practices in the morning, if I'm just doing the practices, I will not, I may not be very regular in the practices. But if I understand the practices, then I'll be regular. So understanding has a tinge of the heart inside, a tinge of the energy of love. It is as if you've fallen in love with something. And when you've fallen in love with something, then you will not miss a single day. We won't miss a single day. Now, what is the difference between knowing and understanding? Because the word used by Patanjali is sarvagna bijam. We'll just take the ordinary meanings just now. We'll go deeper into the meanings at the end. So sarva means from all sides. Gna means to know from all sides. So what does it mean to know partially and to know from all sides? What is the difference in knowing? And is knowing from all sides a form of understanding? And we will see that it is, right? Now, supposing a person knows how to make a bomb, but he is indifferent to what harm his bomb will cause, how it will hurt others, etc. So this is a partial knowing. He has a one-sided knowing, right? In real effect, he does not understand what is a bomb, but he knows how to make a bomb. He has the knowledge to make a bomb. So there is a kind of knowing, but there's lack of understanding, right? He doesn't understand the bomb. He knows what is a bomb. He knows how to make the bomb. Now, supposing he starts knowing from more sides, the partial knowledge of making the bomb, there is now knowledge from other sides also. He suddenly starts feeling for the people who could be hurt if the bomb explodes. Now, this means his knowing, which was partial till now, his knowing has expanded in another correction, in another connection, in another direction. So this just making the bomb, but now feeling for the people who will be affected from the making of the bomb or the explosion of the bomb, his his inner knowing has come from one more side, and in that coming from one more side, feeling for the others, that is one more side, the knowing is moving into understanding. I don't know if I'm coming across here. The knowing is moving into understanding. And he may know from many more sides about the making of a bomb. And the more he knows from many more sides, the deeper will his understanding grow of making the bomb. Now, when he decided to make the bomb, just to make the bomb, it came from the intellectual center. But when he feels for other people, when he feels that people are going to be affected by my making the bomb, then he has now brought in the emotional center. He's now not just looking at things from the intellectual center. He's now trying to perceive the whole thing in a broader way from the emotional center. Now the intellectual center and the emotional center are at work over here. The perception has become finer, more subtle. So now there is not just intellectual knowing, there's an emotion added to it, a feeling added to it, and there's maybe, if he feels that people will be hurt, then there may be a sensitivity also added to it, that what will happen to the people if I explode this bomb. So we see that that small seed of knowing, just in the making of the bomb, has expanded in different directions, and it has led to a higher quality of understanding, which we call knowing from all sides, sarvagna, to know from all sides. So in this process, we saw that the intellectual center was involved, the emotional center was involved, the sensitivity, so the instinctive center was involved. Initially he was in one center, and then as more centers were involved, the knowing started coming from all sides. So Gurdjieff has this saying that to know is a matter of one center, but to understand is a matter of at least two centers. At least two centers are involved. Now, in this process of moving from just the intellectual making of a bomb to the feeling, to the sensitivity. New pathways are opened in the brain. New connections are created in the mind, right? And when we move from knowing to all knowing, different new connections open up in the mind, areas of the mind which were till now totally closed in darkness now start opening up. And as our understanding grows, we will come to the conclusion that it is not right to make the bomb. We are not going to make the bomb, that person. We have risen from a very low level of perception to a higher level of perception and understanding. So all of us together are in this journey from partial perception, partial knowing, to the high state of Purush Vishesh Ishwar, all knowing. We are in the middle somewhere, moving up towards that state. Now, later on, a time can come in our journey when, like we involve the emotional center, we involve the instinctive center, a time comes when our thinking can connect to the sex center, right? And in that movement, in that transformation, sex energy will become brain energy. This is the whole idea behind what they call as Kundalini, right? Now, sex energy has the quality of a perfume. So, I mean, if supposing this is a very big room, and I open a bottle of perfume at one corner of the room, instantly the whole room will be full of the fragrance of the perfume. So perfume does not take time to travel. It is instant everywhere. It is everywhere at the same time. Similarly, when sex energy transforms into brain energy, then it brings a big transformation in our thinking. Our thinking is digital, one thought after the other. But when this transformation of sex energy into brain energy, suddenly we can simultaneously think from all sides. And what we mean is that this initial seed which we started with of understanding, it grows into knowing from all sides. So here Tavariya Sahib calls it that the germ of knowledge has now expanded into infinity. It is everywhere at the same time. I remember one day, Tavariya Sahib was teaching me how to look into a crystal ball, how to do crystal gazing. He was teaching me. And we had this crystal ball on the table. And he said, look at the crystal ball. And if you look focused with one pointed attention, a small window forms on the crystal ball. And as you concentrate on that window, in a very relaxed manner, you concentrate on that window starts expanding. And a point will come, a point did come actually, where the window was bigger than the room we were sitting in. That is, he and I had both entered the crystal ball. We were sitting inside the crystal ball. So when we start this journey with that small seed of understanding, in that small moment of time which we call as now, but it is that same now that as we know from all sides, as we understand more and more, deeper and deeper, it is that same now which expands into the seed of infinity. The whole room is in that now, right? It is that now which expands. So he says that the germ of knowing, right? Nir-atishayam. Where does it go? It expands to such a point that now there is nothing beyond to expand in. Nir means outside of, ati means excess, shayam. So it has reached that, it is what you call resting in that pose of excess, but it is outside of that. There is nothing excess to excess. It cannot go beyond. It has reached that point. So we can take this in another way. That all knowing happens through certain inner instruments. We call these instruments as man, buddhi, ahankar, right? The mind, the ego, the intelligence. We cannot know without an instrument. There is always an instrument between the what you call what we are knowing and the process of knowing and the knower inside. So if I want to study a cell, I have to use a microscope. There is always this medium of some instrument inside. Similarly, when we know inside, there are inner instruments which are responsible for knowing, like we have a microscope on the outside. These inner instruments are called kara. But a point comes where we reach a state where the instruments are useless. Now we cannot use those instruments. Now going beyond is what do you call without the instruments? Without the instruments, there is no knowing as we know it. There is a kind of knowing, but we can go into that later. There is no knowing as we knowing. So if we come to a point nir atishayam, beyond which it is not possible to expand the seed of knowing. I don't know if I'm coming across in this, right? And that that point in our journey is Purush Vishesha Ishvara, right? Now, supposing we take this in another way, that knowing needs to knowledge. And this sutra is saying not the power of knowing, but it is saying knowledge expands into infinity. Now, Gurudeva says that work upon self, that is what we call as sadhana, it has to follow two different lines. One is the line of knowledge and one is the line of being. Being means our being or our hoapana, the line of knowledge and the line of being. So when we move on the spiritual path, we are moving on two paths together, knowledge and being. In most cases, knowledge increases and increases, being remains the same. Nothing changes in the level of being. So now, supposing I'm writing these notes for this sutra, and what do you call supposing I consider this as very high knowledge, etc., right? So I'll say at the level of knowledge, this is very high. And my wife interrupts me, and I get irritated on my wife. I react mechanically upon my wife. So my level of knowledge is very high, but my level of being is very low. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? So I'm not working on my being. I'm working on my knowledge. I'm accumulating knowledge from everywhere, but I'm not working upon my being. But spiritual transformation is the transformation of being. And we must remember that there is a rise in being. We rise from a lower level of being to a higher level of being. Now, knowledge of life is called as science. And whenever we move into the realm of science, attention flows out through the eyes. We are looking through a microscope, a telescope, etc., to understand science. Knowledge of being is called as self-knowledge, right? And self-knowledge can only come by attention going inside. It cannot come by attention going outside. So when attention moves outside, science is born. When attention moves inside, self-knowledge is gained. Now, when attention goes in, I start observing my own psychic nature. I start observing the reactions of my own mind. And over a long period of observation, I come to some conclusion that this is my level of being. I may have a lot of knowledge, but this is my level of being. So I start observing my being. I start observing the workings of my mind. I start observing the workings of my lower psychic nature. And as we observe our own psychic nature, so slowly we separate from it. We rise above it. Now, this ladder of being is like a ladder. We rise up the ladder as we rise in consciousness and transform the what you call lower emotions. Two things must happen together. It's not just rise in consciousness. There must be transformation of the lower at the same time. Now, Gurdjieff has made this ladder of consciousness. And he has given it certain external names. The lowest level he calls the moon, right? The lowest level he calls the moon. I don't know if Ketan is going to draw it. Yeah. This moon is under 96 laws. Yeah, you're feeling warm. No?
You want the AC law?
Yeah, make it 18.
Okay.
So, whenever I'm complaining, whenever I'm finding fault with others, whenever I'm reacting, whenever I become very obstinate, whenever I feel that I am always right, everybody else is wrong, when I'm already judging other people and internally considering other people, when I'm carried away from negative emotions, I am at the level of 96. I am at the level of moon. I may have full knowledge of everything in the Yoga Sutra, but I have very little knowledge of my own being. There's a red dummy somewhere. Can you find it? No. Plastic round. So when we are living a life where we are in our lower psychic nature all the time, we are bound by 96 laws and we are living at the level of the moon. Hey, 20-18 राज्य एकदम गर्मी पे. Now, supposing we now start observing our lower psychic nature, right? We start gaining knowledge. What happens? We gain knowledge of world 96. We gain a knowledge of world 96. That is, I observe my own reactions. I observe my own mechanicalness. If we were to take it from our last sutra, this is the world of Rag and Dvesh, the two kleshas of Rag and Dvesh, right? Now, world 48 is called the earth. Here we experience something within us which is observing all the time. We call it as observing I. We have now freed ourselves from 96 laws and we are now bound by 48. So we have given away, we have risen above 48 laws over here. We then rise to all planets, which is 24 laws. Here our emotional center becomes active. There are no negative emotions left in the emotional center. And through the emotional center, we can perceive the other, understand the other, feel for the other. This is what Gurudeva calls as external considering. It is here, if we practice self-remembering, then we start getting glimpses of world number 12. World number 12 is real I. Gurudeva calls this as asmita. Now, the asmita which we did last time was a klesh, an imperfection. But before that, when we did Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita, one of the sutras of Samadhi, there that Asmita was the real I, right? So Patanjali has used Asmita in two places, one as a hindrance, one as a klesh, and one as a form of Samadhi, the experience of the real I. So then we reach that level of real I. This real I is the Ishvara. When this Ishvara reaches the level of world number 3, can you put up the diagram again? When it reaches the level of world number 3, right, it becomes Purusha Vishesha Ishvara. That is now, it is at the same level as the inner divine, the inner Purush, that Purush. At this world number 3, knowledge cannot go any further. So if we say we are observing world 96, we get knowledge of 96. We are observing our being at world 48, we are getting knowledge of 48. We are getting knowledge of 24. We are getting knowledge of 12 or real I. And at 3, we are getting knowledge of Purusha Vishesha Ishvara. But this expansion of knowledge cannot go beyond 3. It has to stop. There it comes to Nir-atishayam. It stops over there. So Patanjali is saying that is the point where it stops. Nir-atishayam sarvagna bijam. The seed which has expanded into the seed cannot now go any further. So we come to that place, Tatra, there in that Purush Vishesh Ishvara, Nir Atishay, beyond excellence, lies the Sarvagna Bijam, the all-knowing seed or the all-knowledge seed, right? And that seed is beyond any excellence. Is beyond. I hope I've been able to come across in this, right? Now let us go into the words. Let us go into the words. Tatra Niratishayam Sarvagna Bijam. And we saw the word Tatra means there, therein, in that place, in that Purush Vishesh Ishvara. Now, actually this was a little difficult sutra. So I am actually thankful to my son that he opened up these words for me. They were a little difficult to open up, and I went to him yesterday and we sat and he helped me open up these words. So I'm thankful to him. So the definition of Niratishaya, Tatra Niratishaya Sarvagna Bijam. Tatra Niratishayam. So the definition of Niratishaya is Nirgataha Atishayaha Yasmat. Yasmat is from this. Nirgataha. Gat. Gat means gone. Right? Gone. It is past tense, gone. Nirgata. Nirgat means it has gone so far that it cannot go further. It is gone. It is beyond even gone also. It is gone also. Beyond even it is gone. Gone. So it is gone so completely that it is beyond any more movement now. Any more gati. From the word gata, we can get the word gati, which means movement. Right? It is beyond any movement. So now the soul, which is the Purush Vishesh Ishvara, has risen to such an extent that to such a height that it has gone out of this process of rising. It has now gone out of the process of rising. Now what may happen in that state may be due to grace, may be due to the magnetism of the divine, but the soul itself has now gone out of the process of rising. It has risen to that extent in Purush Vishesh Ishvara. That is, in what we call time and space, it cannot go further. There is a very, very famous Buddhist mantra, which is a part of the Heart Sutra. And it goes this way: Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, Bodhiswaha. Gate means gone. Gate, Gate, gone, gone. Param Gate, completely gone. Parasam Gate, gone to that extent that he has now crossed the boundary, he has crossed the river. Parasam Gate, he has crossed, par ho gaya. He has gone across. Parasam Gate, Bodhiswaha, the one who has risen in consciousness, the Bodhiswaha, the one who has awakened his inner consciousness, is gone, gone, completely gone. Something similar is being said here by Patanjali. He has gone, gone now, completely gone. He has gone now beyond which going is not possible. Nirgate. Nir means out of gate, right? Huh? Hail that one. Yes. We hail that one, Bodhiswaha. We hail that one. In another way, we can say that till the point of Purush Vishesha Ishvara, there can be a falling back, falling down for the student or of spirituality, for the sadhak. But once he crosses this line, there is no falling back now, because now he's no longer in the process of rising. If he's still in the process of rising, he can fall back. But now he's no longer in the process of rising. Just the crossing to the other shore. Parasam Gate Bodhiswaha. Crossing to the other shore. So Nirgataha, he's out of gone. He has gone so far that he's out of gone. Atishay Yasmat. Atishay means excess, excellence, superiority. Ati plus she to rest. and repose. Now, to rest. Any process in life, it consists of two parts, movement and rest. But when you are beyond process, then you have ati shi. Shi means rest, to repose. You have crossed over the resting pose. Now there is no need to rest because you have crossed over. There is you are now not in duality any longer of activity and rest, that you have gone beyond that. So he's saying nirgata, he has gone beyond going, where he is now no longer a part of any process, where he is not a part of this process of activity and rest. He has gone beyond resting. There is atishi. He has gone beyond the resting. He has transcended the resting. There is no need to rest now, that he is free of that duality. So he has exceeded that point. Ati means to exceed that point. The point where rest is needed. Atishaya. So within us, the seed of knowing has expanded to comprehend so much. Is it expanded to such an extent that now it is atishay. Now it cannot expand any longer. It has come to that point where it cannot go beyond this excess. Niratishay sarvagna brijam. If we take this in the form of knowledge, now he has reached a point in which there is no more the acquiring of knowledge. He has gone beyond that point. You know, it's very funny, but many people tell me that, why are you following the path of knowledge? Just do bhakti, right? Just do bhakti. And I tell them, what you're saying is mental laziness. It has nothing to do with bhakti. You don't even know what is bhakti. We can only drop the path of the bhakti, and knowledge must go together. Ganga is knowledge, Yamuna is bhakti. There must be sangam of Ganga and Yamuna. Bhakti and knowledge must go together. If there is bhakti without any knowledge, it's just mechanical bhakti. It has no meaning at all. But a point comes where knowledge cannot go beyond. Now it is not possible for knowledge to go beyond. Right? If we have reached that point, then we can say knowledge is useless. But without reaching that point, when we tell somebody that knowledge is useless and the path of knowledge is useless, it is just another form of our mental laziness. We don't really want to do anything. We don't want to make the effort. I mean, till COVID happened, I used to travel mainly to two places, to the US and to South Africa. And these trips would take place every year. And the person who arranges my sessions in South Africa, he's the priest of the Hindu temple over there. And he used to tell me that why.
Sir, we can't hear you. You are muted suddenly.
Are we muted?
Yes, now we can. So,
can you hear?
Yes. So we just missed a line where you said you were invited by the Hindu priest in South Africa.
Yeah. So he used to always tell me that why do you prepare for any talk? And we should just be able to speak like that. And of course, in question answer sessions, you're always speaking just spontaneous. So I told him that when you're speaking about a science. And for a science, you have to gather knowledge, right? Which supports what you're saying, the knowledge which supports what you're saying. But he always argues with me. And I say, a point comes in your journey where there is no need to gather any more knowledge. But even then, when you want to explain something, you still have to gather knowledge to explain that thing. So we do come to this point, maybe. But before that, to even say to anyone that, the path of knowledge is useless is just a form of mental laziness. Once we've experienced that point, we won't feel the need to tell anyone, because we will know that they are all on this journey from partial knowing to all knowing, right? Everybody is there. So the knowledge has reached a high point beyond which there can be no process of knowing or no process of acquiring knowledge. That is Niratishay Sarvagna Bijam. He has reached that point. Now let us go into what he means by Sarvagna Bijam. We saw Niratishay. Now we'll look at the word Sarvagna Bijam. This word Sarvagna, the definition of the word, beautiful definition. Sarva Atmana Atmanam Janati. Through the eyes to realize the I, or through so many selves, Sarva Atmanam, through so many selves to realize the self. Atmana Janati. This is the definition of the word Sarvagna. So, here now, there's something very definite being said over here. All knowing, all knowledge, but he's saying very definite knowledge through the eyes to realize the one Atma, the one I, through so many eyes to realize that one Atma, that one I. That knowledge he's talking about, not any other knowledge he's talking about. We have to understand this. So, like I said, there is knowledge of the outside, there is knowledge of the self. So definitely here Patanjali is not talking about outside knowledge. The knowledge of science will grow into the infinity. He's not talking about that. The seed of the knowledge of, he's talking about the seed of inner knowledge. Because the definition of the word Sarvagna is Sarva Atmanaha, Atmanam, Atmanaha Janati. To know the Atma through all the Atmas, through all the selves, to know that self. Now, the word Sarva, we'll go again into the meaning of the word Sarva. The word Sarva has the verb to move ahead, shru, sarati, something which moves ahead, right? Like a snake moves ahead. It moves ahead on the ground. That is, something is gliding across like this. But it doesn't just move ahead. It moves ahead in a cyclic process. There is a cycle involved. There is a cyclic process involved. Now let us take one cycle. Say we take the cycle from birth to death. Birth to death. So in that cycle, we pass through so many different selves. So many different selves. There's the self of young age, right? There is the self of my youth. There is the self of now my old age. So these are what you call transitory selves in the part of this cycle. I cannot remain what you call a child forever. I cannot remain young forever. I cannot remain at the old age forever. Death has to come at some point. So in this cycle, there are so many selves: the young self, the child self, the mature self. But if I look at these selves, whenever I'm passing through these transitory selves, which are there for some time only, if I look at them with the eyes of consciousness, right, through the eyes of discrimination, then beyond that, I will see that there is an eternal self which is playing the role of a young self, which is playing the role of a mature self, which is playing the role of a, what do you call, old age self. These selves are transitory, but through these many selves, Janati, I know that one self which is eternal, that one Atma which is eternal, by knowing these so many selves. I hope am I coming across in this? So he's saying, Sarva Atmanam Atmanah Janati. So Sarvaga Gnanam. He's talking about, we translate it as knowledge from all sides or knowing from all sides, but he's saying only knowing of the self through the self, through the selves. Sorry. Or we can take it in another way, that we have so many relative selves, right? If my son comes in front of me, then I take upon the self of a father. If I'm a student in a school, then I take upon the self of a student. If my wife is in front of me, I take upon the self of a husband. These are relative selves. They are not false. They're not a part of Maya, but they are still relative to the life we are living in. Now, if we can say that this, I am talking to my son through the relative state of through that self of father, the relative self, I can experience a higher self beyond. Through self, I experience self. So what Patanjali is saying here in this sutra, Sarvagna Bijam, is that knowledge which leads from self to self. So in life, we pass through so many selves. And if we are observing those selves from far away, as if we are watching a movie, we will see that the one who is observing is the eternal self, looking at all the selves. Through the other selves, we realize that one self. This is the meaning of the word Sarvagna, knowledge from all sides. Now, let us go a little deeper into this. I hope you're with me in this. We will divide these two words. We took one word, Sarvagna, and took the definition of Sarvagna. We will divide it into Sarva and Gna, to know. Sarva, all, and Gna, to know. We will divide it into two parts. Now, the definition of the word Sarva is Shrutam Anena Vishwam Iti. Now, in the word Sarva, the word Vishwa is there, right? Vishwa means the cosmos or the world or whatever, right? So the definition of the word Sarva is Shrutam, moving, Anena Vishwam Iti. That Vishwa is going forth because of this Sarva. What is the law by which the universe, the Vishwa, is moving ahead? It is the law of Sarva. Now let us look at the word Vishwa. I'm going to take a 1-minute break if you don't mind. We'll just look at the word Vishwa. Yeah. What's that? So we saw that the definition of the word sarva is shrutam, moving, anen, vishwam iti. Right? Vishwa means the universe. Now let us go into the word Vishwa. Vishwa means to penetrate and to pervade. In the sense of to enter something and then go into the process of pervading that, to possess that. All space comes under Vishwa. It means the entire space of the cosmos. And that which pervades this all space, that which penetrates this all space, which we call as Vishnu, the one who pervades this all space, the one who has penetrated this all space. And then it takes possession of that space. So first is to, what do you call, come in, to penetrate, and penetrate, pervade, possess. This is the meaning of the word Vishwa. So the example we can take over here is that if you blow air into a balloon, first you penetrate, the air penetrates into the balloon. Then it pervades throughout the balloon. But then the balloon takes possession of the air. The air belongs to the balloon. Can you say? So we say God blew into this balloon of the universe, right? It pervaded the universe, but then the universe took possession of that breath. Right? And so all space is Vishwa. So when we look at life, we are looking through the five senses. And the five senses, each moment, are taking a snapshot of life. Right? So we have a seeing snapshot, a hearing snapshot, etc., etc. And this one snapshot is one frame. It is this frame which we call as the present moment. This what do you call, camera frame of life, which is taken by the five senses, right? And we call that frame as the present moment. Then the mind arranges one present moment, one present moment, one present moment, and creates a line of time. And it creates a line of time, right? So in this line of time, the dots are each present moment, and each present moment is nothing but a snapshot, a frame of a frame in the camera. I remember many years ago, when Mr. Tavaria had left his body, and someone was asking for, he said, can you have these Gujarati videos of his, can you at least dub one into English so that we, which contains everything of that sort. So I sat in the studio for, I think, 15, 16 hours to dub that one talk of his from Gujarati into English. Now, the person whose studio I was sitting in, he was a professional photographer, and he had spent his whole life taking films and photos of famous people, and also of many, what do you call, famous saints, and even present day gurus, etc. So, I mean, he was there throughout the 16 hours, helping me to do the lip synchronization. And he, after about 8 hours, he's telling me there is something in this video which he says, I have not seen in any other video. I have taken so many, what do you call, films of different gurus giving talks and lectures, but I have not seen anything like what is in this video. So I said, you please explain because I don't understand. So he says there is a repetition of a 25 frame cycle. Right? And this whole video is going into some rhythm of 25 frames, he's telling me. So he's saying if you take one frame of a photo and a second frame and 25 frames, then again it repeats after 25 frames, again it is repeating. He's saying such conscious movement I have never seen before. Most of the people have a very mechanical movement. They don't know what they have done 25 frames before. Here, this person knows every frame which is being shot. He's so conscious. He says, I have never seen anything like this before. I mean, this is not to compare. Please understand, I don't want to compare Mr. Tavaria with any other people, because in the end, we are only saying that I am better than you. That's all we say when we, right? But what I'm trying to say is that there is a frame, and the five senses are taking a frame of life, and that is the frame of the present moment. Now, so Vishwa means the snapshot of the present moment. Vishwa is the snapshot of space. But when that snapshot starts moving in time, Shrutam, to move in time, Shrutam anena Vishwam iti, when that snapshot starts moving in time, it becomes sarva. It is not just of space, it is now space and time together. So the word sarva has space also and time also. Sarvagna, knowledge of, to know of, be aware of, to be aware of the laws of space and time, right? So one definition we took of Sarvagna Jnanam, that is, we took the whole world, is that from the many selves to realize the self. And when we break up the words, we get a new meaning now, is to be aware of, to know about, to be conscious of the laws which govern the movement of Vishwa into Sarva, the movement of this universe, the basic laws which govern this universe, to be aware of those basic laws. Sarvagna. Gurudeva says that there are two fundamental laws which govern everything in the universe. He calls these the law of three and the law of seven. The law of seven is more famously known as the law of octaves. Whenever there is any creation, even a thought in my mind, a small creation of a thought in my mind, three forces go into the making of that thought. That is called the law of three, tamas, rajas, and sattva, the active, passive, neutralizing. They go into the making of that thought. So Gurudeva says the law of three. And when the law of three moves in time, Gurudeva says it moves in a specific rhythm, which is called the law of octaves. And he uses the musical scale to explain that law of octaves, right? So, Sarvagna, what do you call? We can also take it as the one who is aware of, the one who can see, the one who can understand each moment in life, the operation of the two basic laws which govern everything in our lives, the law of three and the law of seven. Sarvagna Bijam. Bijam. Now we go into the word Bijam. Vajati karyam gacchati. Vaj means to roam, to move. But Vajati also means to prepare, to feather an arrow. You feather the arrow so the arrow goes into balance, to prim and to prepare. Bij means the seed, but Bij and Vij are you can use interchangeable in Sanskrit. So Vajati karyam gacchati. Vajati, first there is a scattered movement, a scattered movement. And So the first thing which happens with the seed is it has to be scattered. It is scattered by the wind. It is scattered by the water. It is scattered by the insects. It is scattered by the droppings of different animals. The seed is scattered all over. Then comes preparation. Then if the seed falls somewhere, then that ground has to have some water, it has some moisture to prepare for the seed, it has to be ready for the seed. Once the preparation is done, vajati karyam gachati. It goes on the seed goes on the path of its karya, on the path of its own destiny. The seed then moves on the path of its own destiny. So if it's a mango seed, it cannot become something else. It moves on the path of becoming a mango, right? So, but first it will be scattered everywhere. Then the ground is prepared, and then karyam gachati. It has to move according to law, not ordinary movement, not all the movements we do every day in life, not that, right? These movements which are according to a certain law. A predestined law, a predestined our destiny. So all of us have this seed within us. This seed is the seed of attention, right? And our destiny is to take that attention back to the source of attention. And the source of attention is the inner divine. It is when the divine wants to see, attention flows out of our eyes and we are able to see. When the divine wants to hear, attention flows out of our ears and we want. But our attention is scattered like the seed everywhere. Our attention is scattered. It is scattered in physical objects, in our bank balance, in all the our possessions, right? So if anything happens to our possessions, we feel pain inside. That is because our attention is stuck there. That sticking of attention is called attachment, asakti, right? That where attention is stuck. It is stuck in the physical world. It is stuck in the world of relationships. It is stuck in the mental world of thoughts, right? I am identified with I am a Hindu. I'm identified I am with this caste, etc. I'm identified with I am this country, etc. So attention is in all places. Now I have to prepare a ground. I now want to go on a journey inward. So I collect attention from everywhere. That does not mean I leave my physical possessions. I just get rid of the attachment to the physical possessions. If I get rid of the attachment to the physical, my attention is not stuck in that car or in anything. In anything, it goes back. And then I take karyam gachati. That attention goes back onto its inner path of destiny to unveil the inner divine. Purusha, Vishesha, Ishvara. It goes back. So the seed within us is the seed of attention. And bijam. So he's saying, Tatra niratishayam sarvagna bijam. Bijam means vajati karyam gachati. So to scatter, it is first scattered, then we prepare it. We do different exercises to increase the attention, to make the attention one-pointed, to be able to hold the attention on one thing, what we call as meditation. And then we turn the attention inward and we take the attention layer by layer of the mind ahead to the point where the attention came from, which was the divine. And we say, Tat Param Purusha Khyati, that Purush, Purusha Vishesha Ishvara inside. So we take the attention back to that place where the seed of all knowledge is expanded into infinity. So we'll say, Tatra Nirati Saryam Sarvagna Bijam. In that Ishvara, the seed of attention which was scattered in us has reached its highest point, beyond which it cannot go at all, which is in that state of all-doingness. So we'll finish this sutra over here, sutra number 25. I hope I've been able to explain it from these 2-3 different angles. right? If there are any questions, we can take the questions now.
So there was a participant. Because she had some work, so she has sent me her question. The question is related to the last session. So she has sent me a screenshot. I will just read. In that moment of death, when the 5 elements dissolve in the root, and we are at the state where formless created the form, does it mean that we experience the state of absolute wholeness, and again the process from absolute wholeness to separateness and further to rag and dvesha starts? Or is it the state of separateness that we experience at the moment of death? Please, sir, if you can throw some more light on this.
So as we move into the moment of death, the 5 tattvas, right, which it is through the 5 tattvas that we have enjoyed life, we have experienced life, and for some time at that moment of death, the 5 tattvas resolve back into their evolutes. They go back, right? It is only for some time, and this allows us at the moment of death till about 1 hour after death to have a darshan of the divine, and this is with everybody. The only thing is that if we have fallen into a state of unconsciousness, right? If we are not even a little awake, we will not be able to experience it. That 1 hour will pass away. So there must be some practices which we do for that 1 hour, right? If we cannot just say that, oh, I have the knowledge, I will at the moment of death, be awake in that 1 hour and I'll experience that 1 hour. There must be some net practice, or as you call it in terraces, wall practice for that 1 hour. Then it helps us to remain in a state of sensitivity. It helps us to remain in a state of feeling for that 1 hour, and we are able to have a certain perception of that divine, right? But if we go into a total swoon, then we will not be able to have it. I hope that answers our question. I don't.
Ji, sir. Yes, sir. Vinayji, please ask your question.
Sir, my question is that you have mentioned that 2 activities are there, tamas, rajas, and sattva. In any of the activities, they are involved, all the 3.
In any creation. In any creation.
Any creation. Then you say law of octave. How the law of octave is now covered with that?
Now, when you see, there is within a creation, there are many processes. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I eat food and it goes in my stomach.
Correct.
And from the stomach, it goes into the blood.
Correct.
So I may say that this is just one process. It goes in the stomach, right? And it goes into the blood. Now, if we go deeper into the food, then many processes go in the stomach before it goes into the blood.
Yes.
Right?
True.
So the food goes into the stomach, right? It is acted upon by digestive juices, rajas. The food is tamas. And something comes out of which is the sattva of tamas and rajas.
Okay.
And it passes into the blood.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the law of 3.
Yes.
Right? The law of 3. But it cannot happen just like that.
In
that process of the food going into the stomach and the food going into the blood, there are so many small processes happening.
Oh, okay.
Right? So those small processes will follow the law of octaves. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa.
I see.
So the food which will go into the stomach, say it is sa. It goes into the law of three. The food is the tamas, the digestive juices are the rajas, and the sattva is the last sa. Sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. What we see is sa to sa, but in that sa to sa, there are so many smaller notes which have happened. That is the law of octaves. Right?
Okay.
That is one way to see. Or you can say that the food which I eat is sa. When it goes into the stomach, it is re. When it goes into the blood, it is ga, sa re ga. You're familiar with the musical scale.
Yeah, yes, slightly.
Yeah. Right. So sa re ga. And then at ga, a certain shock comes in. So the law of octaves say from ga to ma is not an easy process. It has to pass through this. So that is how the law of octaves operates. So within the law of three is the law of octaves, and within the law of octaves is the law of three. You see, and every process in life, everything happening in life follows these two laws. Right? So the person who knows and can visualize and can perceive the operation of these laws, he knows what is happening next, in the next, because he's perceiving those laws as they happen, as they unfold.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank
Short,
you.
but I took a whole camp on the law of octaves. It was a 5-6 day camp on the law of octaves. So,
But I feel, sir, that for any creation, any activity, something is created, one thing is abolished. And that goes simultaneously.
it has to go simultaneous. So if some food goes in the blood, some will go out through the undigested food. Can you see? Something will go out as waste matter and something will go into the blood. It has to happen that way.
Yeah.
And there are two kinds of octaves: sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa, sa ni dha ga pa ma. Ascending octave and descending. So one is in an ascending octave, one is in a descending octave. Can you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
From one, the note is going from gross to finer. From the other, it is going from finer to gross.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yes. Anyone else? Anyone? Yeah. What is?
मैं ये कह रहा था राजेन भाई
हाँ जी सर, हाँ जी,
कि वो एक शायर का मैंने शेर पढ़ा था, उसको कहते हैं ज़हूरे तरतीब, मतलब सीक्वेंस में, कि जिंदगी क्या है, अनासिर में ज़हूरे तरतीब, अनासिर में से 5 तत्व, क्षिति जल पावक गगन समीरा, और मौत क्या है, इन्हीं अज्जा का परेशान होना. डेथ इज नथिंग बट, ये जब सेपरेट हो जाते हैं या परेशान हो जाते हैं या अलग हो जाते हैं, दैट इज डेथ. तो आज जो आप बता रहे थे उससे बड़ा क्लियर हुआ वो कि रजस तमस और वो कैसे, हाउ इट एक्ट्स ऑन दैट ऑन इन बिटवीन, वो जो 6 ऑक्टेव, मतलब ऑक्टेव वाला चक्कर है सारे गा मा पा धा नि सा, दैट इज आल्सो वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर क्लैरिफिकेशन. राइट सर.
There's a question on the YouTube. Can we communicate with Mr. Tavaria's mental body? Mr. Tavaria's mental body for us is the teaching which he has left with us. And if we practice that teaching, if we do the 3-step rhythmic breathing, then many times when you're doing the 3-step rhythmic breathing, you will feel we are not breathing. He is breathing through us. We have communicated with his mental body. Right? So there will be a communication. So don't make the effort to communicate with his mental body, but you can, in following his mental body, in following his practices, there will be glimpses where there will be communication with his mental body. Right.
Sir, no more questions from this side.
Okay, I think we are going to have a long gap.
Ji, sir.
Right.
We will see you in October.
Yes, I'm coming back on 10th of October. So
after a week, we will again
we'll
again start
with Sutra 26.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yes. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much, sir.
All the best to everyone. Right?
All the best to you, sir, for your journey.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You can please close, Hemaji.
Ji, sir. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.